Welcome back to MLive's Dungeon of Doom podcast. Ben Raven, joined as always by Kory Woods.
What up, though?
That's right. We're coming to you first post-loss episode for the new Dungeon of Doom. Yeah, the Lions lost a shootout last week, 48-42 to the Bills. The defensive injuries seemed to catch up with them a little bit, but the main story, and it was kind of Aaron Glenn's main talking point this morning. It's Thursday, December 19th when we're recording this. That's a freak on the other side of the ball. I mean, they knew it going in. They know it more coming out. I mean, Josh Allen and the Bills played their perfect offensive game. And yes, there are things the Lions could have done well, but sometimes the sword is a little too mighty.
I mean, yeah, this coming into the game, Josh Allen was pretty much the, I guess you could say, on the front runner for MVP on pretty much mostly every betting site. And just I've seen him play on TV, but that was my first time getting an up close glimpse of him. And I don't know how many times I turned to you and was just like, dude, this guy is really unreal. So there is no shame in losing to a guy just like that. I think going into the game, everybody predicted this was going to be a shootout, which is why you could not spot a guy in a team like that 14 points. But yeah, it was pretty much all you can say. They played against the MVP, and he showed why he is.
Yeah, and I would say the sky is falling on the outside of the Lions. They don't feel like it's falling inside of here. I mean, I think if the Lions come out and lay a turd this weekend, then the sky might be falling. I think you can tell yourself, you know what? The league's freakiest quarterback got the best of them. It kind of feels like that Ravens game last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But on the bright side, the Lions had 521 yards of offense. Goff had 494 yards, 5 touchdown passes. St. Brown puked for the first time of his life and then went out and set career high in catches and yards. Sam Laporte had his best game of the season. And I mean, I think they just got a haymaker or 9 from one of the heaviest hitters in the game.
And even then, what is still crazy, another moment where we looked at each other was they still almost were a close onside kick away at that last second from getting the ball back with roughly 10, 12 seconds left on the clock. They were still in position to possibly win that game with a walk-off.
Exactly. For as bad as it was, there was what felt like 25 minutes of who has the ball right here. And I do think that is important to know that as bad as it was, as bad as the defense was, the Lions still had a chance in the final minutes of that game. So I understand the frustration. I think the sky is falling should be directed at the injuries. Ali McNeil is done for the year. Carlton Davis sounds like he's going to be a tough bid back if they can make it to the title game or the Super Bowl. David Montgomery's a big old question mark. On Monday, it started with season-ending surgery.
Yeah.
And yesterday there's a glimmer of hope.
My story aged really quickly.
I know. I literally, when we were writing the Montgomery update yesterday, I'm linking to a story I wrote with the headline, "Where the Lions go from here without David Montgomery." And it's like, well, we'll see. So it seems like they're waiting on a third opinion on that. I know a lot of Twitter doctors were out there saying MCL injuries usually don't require surgery. And Dan Campbell didn't say that, but he's like, they're seeing to see if it's stable enough for him to play at some point in the playoffs. I would imagine Montgomery's done for the season.
Yeah.
Regular season, that is. That's something new we have to do here on the Lions beat is clarify between regular season and playoffs. But they're moving forward without him. He's not going to play this weekend.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
And I think that is just, they're trying to hold out some type of hope. So, it's good to see that he's at least seeking another opinion. And I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to put him in any type of harm's way. So if he gets to clear, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think as far as the regular season goes, I think the Niners game might be a little bit difficult for them without Montgomery, but I think Bears and Vikings, I think that, Gibbs, he can be able to carry a lion's share of that load, no pun intended, and be able to deliver them to a victory.
No, I mean, he's a 1,000-yard rusher. He's already got more rushing yards and more receiving yards than he had in a breakout rookie campaign. I mean, it might look a little different in the weeks coming forward, but the Lions do and should have a ton of confidence with a backfield led by Jahmyr Gibbs.
And then also, too, you guys got to think about this. You have Dan Campbell, who coached a guy like Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
And they say that they believe that he's a Alvin Kamara type back. So maybe you might see Gibbs maybe not rush the ball more because Montgomery is out, but get used more in that Kamara type way, just being able to expand his possibilities in offense.
Yeah, as like a primary target. Like, I mean, he's shown that he can do that. 3 touchdowns, nearly 400 receiving yards. Yeah, I think the main change will be how the offense looks. I don't think there's going to be a ton of that punchy in the face for the first couple of drives because that hasn't been working the last couple of weeks anyway. I mean,
no, absolutely not.
The story of the game last week was that the fact that the Lions couldn't fall in a hole. They gained 8 yards and 1 first down over their 2 series, and all of a sudden we're down 14-0.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you got a guy like Josh Allen, again, not to sound like a broken record, you can't give up empty possessions. First 2 drives, you didn't score. When Tyler Bass missed the field goal, you didn't walk away with any points on that drive, and then the St. Brown fumble didn't help him out. So those are 4 empty possessions.
Yep, exactly. And, they failed at taking away the possessions like they wanted to. No takeaways, failed on the 2 onside. But, yeah, before we get into the mailbag, we'll just update the playoff picture because it's messy. There's 3 teams tied atop the NFC, 12-2, Lions, Eagles, and Vikings. As things stand, the Lions would have the number 1 seed if the season ended today. They would be NFC North champs if the season ended today. And a reminder on tiebreakers inside of the division. It's head-to-head record, and it's best win percentage in games played within the division. The Lions are undefeated in the division right now. They have a chance to be 5-0 in the division if they can win this weekend against the Chicago Bears. And then it goes down a long list, like best win percentage in common games, NFC, strength of victory, and stuff like that. Moral of the story is win out, and the Lions are the number 1 seed, and they're the NFC North champs. If they drop 1 on those, the Vikings drop 1, they can still win it in that week 18. So as bad as it is, and it's kind of to quote Aaron Glenn, why in the hell is the sky falling? We're 12-2.
That's what I'm saying. As long as they continue to just keep on winning out, they'll be good. Because again, my whole thing about, even with all the injuries, I still say that the pathway to the Super Bowl comes through Detroit. As long as they hold that number 1 seed, they'll be fine. If they have to go on the road, I'm not gonna say all bets are off, but things could get a little bit dicey because I think, again, I don't think that any of these NFC teams are going to be able to come inside of Ford Field, inside of that Hornets nest, and be able to produce. Jalen Hurts, talented QB. I think he could give the Lions some difficulties with him being able to get outside of the pocket, but he ain't Josh Allen.
No,
he's not getting outside the pocket and throwing it 60 yards on the dot.
No, he's not. And that is important to know. I wrote that the Bills gave the other teams the blueprint to beat the Lions. And I made sure to state, like, there's not another Josh Allen out there. There's not another 6'6", 240-pound quarterback who can throw the ball and run the way he can. But you get out of the pocket with the intention to pass or run at the last second, get this new linebackers, get these defensive backs talking, communicating. That's how you could have success against these Lions. Because, I mean, Allen and the Bills won that game by Allen being a freak outside of the pocket and a running back or a tight end leaking down the middle of the field with the Detroit defense kind of wondering, what the hell do we do? Do we rush the quarterback? Do we stay in coverage? Do we do something in between? The more you can get them doing that, the more success you're going to have.
I said it. Allen was going to have them gun shy, and he definitely did.
I mean, I put myself in their situation. I'm like, what the hell do you do? Like, he's running, he's stopping an inch before the line of scrimmage and throwing it 64 yards downfield.
If I could make a basketball, equivalent, it's like Steph Curry coming up the court and shooting from 35 feet out. It's like and he drills like, what, there's no defense.
Exactly. And I mean, I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but that's kind of the reality of that loss. As I said, if they lay a turd this weekend, the sky could be falling in your mind. Exactly.
Now you're talking about them losing back-to-back games for the first time in 2 years. So in a division game, which
no, exactly. I mean, McNeil and Davis are big losses on top of every freaking thing else this defense has gone through this year. But there's still some bright sides. Still Branch and Joseph. Still got Arnold. Still got Robertson. Still maybe got Emanuel Mosley. We got a question on him. We'll get into that. But, like, having DJ Reader, Zadarius Smith, Levi, Josh, it sucks. McNeil's a cornerstone piece, but, it's there's still aspects of this defense in its current state right now that I would take over last year's.
Absolutely. And they got some guys that are this is the chance for a lot of those guys to go ahead and step up and show what they're made of. And again, the sky is falling outside of the locker room, but inside the locker room is, from what I'm seeing, is like all right, let's strap up. Let's go.
Yeah, and I've got a pretty good radar for coach speak and player speak and cliches and stuff like that now, but it seems real. It does seem real. It really does. And that's how they've gotten this far, and that's why they are the way they are and who they are. Let's get into it. Subtext Insider Texting Service is where you can submit questions for this mailbag podcast. We're going to start with John A. I am beyond depressed about the Lions right now. If we beat the Bears but lose to the 49ers and Vikings, where would we stand in the playoffs? Give me a reason for hope. Well, the hope is that the Vikings have a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah.
Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit. If the Vikings lose that game to Green Bay and the Lions beat the Bears but lose to the 49ers and Vikings, I think the Lions would still win the NFC North by those. If the Vikings lose to the Packers and the Lions, it gets a little messy if the Lions lose to the Vikings, because that's where things could change. Because if the Vikings win that Week 18 game and the Lions go 1-2, then I think the Vikings would get the NFC North. I was going through the ESPN playoff predictor today, and it's a freaking mess. Like, the Lions, in most scenarios, win the NFC North. They need the Eagles to drop a game. They really need the Packers to beat the Vikings, not this weekend, but next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But they play the Seahawks this weekend. That's a tough game, with or without Geno Smith. We'll see how that goes. But there's still hope, man. They're 12-2. They've got most tiebreakers. They've got the common game percentage over the Eagles, and they've got the head-to-head win over the Vikings, and they have a chance to be 5-0 in the division right now.
I think that as part of this, as the way this season has been going, and again, I'm not trying to say there's any real correlation to last year or previous years, but the Lions have been somewhat on a revenge tour this year with a lot of these teams. So I can see them. They had tough games against the Seahawks, the Cowboys. They went and handled their business against those guys. So I don't see them going out to San Francisco, Santa Clara, whatever, and dropping that Monday night game against the 49ers. I think that's going to be a game that they have circled on their calendar to go out there and sell out for as well and win. So, but if they did beat the Bears and lose those two games, I mean, that would definitely put make things a little bit more difficult. But I honestly also think that the Lions know that these next three games they have to win out. Because first off, they need that bye so they can have some guys take that week off, have some guys come back, possibly a little bit healthy. Might get Anzalone back. Still, like you said, we don't know about Carlton Davis, so we still don't know about David Montgomery and his going to get his next opinion. So having that week off, you might be able to get some of these guys back and get the guys you have right now some rest. But, I mean, I think they're going to be good.
I just did the ESPN playoff predictor as Kory was going through there, and I did the situation where the Lions beat the Bears but lose to the 49ers and Vikings. And even with if Vikings lost to the Packers in Week 17, it would be 1 seed Philly, 2 seed Minnesota, NFC North champs, and 5 seed Detroit at Los Angeles in the wild card round. So they cannot go 1-2 in these games, John. Don't go that far, though, man. I'm telling you guys right now, I think the Lions go 3-0 in these next 3 games. I really do.
I feel it.
I really do.
I feel it as well. I do not see a scenario where they look, because they know they have to. And if there's one thing that I've seen about Dan Campbell since after that 1-6 start in 2022 is that he gets his team ready the next game after a loss. They do not play the same way.
It's a special quality.
Yeah, and I just don't see it.
No, and I mean, take care of the Bears. You get the Niners. Like you said, that's a revenge tour game. That's going back to where your season ended last year. 49ers don't have as many injuries as the Lions, but they are dealing with a number of things to key guys as well. Debo has not looked like Debo. Ayuk is out. McCaffrey's gone. Jordan Mason's gone. I mean, the Niners, you win these next 2 games, you pray that the Vikings lose to the Packers, and then you can take care of business. That's why you should feel all right, John. I'm telling you. I would not have laughed at I am beyond depressed on Monday because, it did feel that way. It's like, damn, this is depressing all of a sudden. But, it's a 12-2 team with a red-hot offense, with a great offensive coordinator, a head coach I would take over nearly anyone in the world to lead this ship. So it's like, as bad as it is on defense, these guys have been through this in some way.
Yeah, they'll be. I think they'll be fine.
Yep. Rod in Birmingham wants to know, after losses, I've seen Coach Dan Campbell put a positive spin on things, never a harsh word about his players, says they got to clean things up. That's what he says in public, but what does he say behind the scenes? Does he go after guys? Is he critical of them and ride them? It's not I would say we're not in those meetings, obviously, but I from the time I've covered Dan Campbell's entire tenure here, you've been here.
Yep.
He's the most honest, genuine person possible. So I really do believe that the Dan we get after games, the Dan we get at the podium, is at least 90% accurate of the Dan you see in the locker room, right?
I would say that. I mean, a lot of things that I've learned when talking about players is that, they know when coaches are being fake or phony about it.
Yes.
How they go about things. I don't get that sense with Dan. And even then, when some of these guys have had not so great games, they're accountable.
Yes.
And they don't deflect towards anybody. They say, we got to clean up. We got to clean up. It's almost like they're reiterating the things that Dan is saying to them. So I think there might be some level of where he's holding them accountable behind the scenes, but he takes, the onus of it in front of the public with the media. And again, whatever he's doing behind the scenes, those guys respond to it.
I covered 2 years the Matt Patricia's led Lions, and I know that's a harsh comparison to make, but that was a coach who went after guys, who singled guys out. We heard about that either on the record or off the record from those guys in that locker room. That doesn't happen here. That has not happened in 3+ years here. I would say Dan holds people accountable. Dan will call you out when you mess something out and you need to be better, but it's done in a way to lift you up, to be like, man, you're here because we believe in you. You know this. Do this. Do this. It's coaching. It's like, it's never tear you down. It's never embarrass you. It's never call you a diva or why you blank riding this guy on Instagram or anything like that. Yeah. Shout out.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, it's there. I don't get the sense of any of that. Like, we've been on this beat a long time. Some of these guys trust us and tell us things off the record. That's not the case with Dan.
No, they love him. They sell off for him. They always say, it's from every player I've talked to, we got to be better. We got to work on this. Yeah. Dan's believing in us. Dan is, he's talked to us about it. We know what we got to go out there and do. That's the end of it. They hold themselves accountable. It's no finger pointing. Well, this coach isn't doing this, or he didn't set us up for success. It's on. They take ownership. So again, I also think this is why you've seen the 3-13-1 team that he started with now have 3 straight winning seasons, back-to-back 12-win seasons, and a win away from a franchise best.
Exactly. I mean, I've said it a couple of weeks too. I mean, it is really the closest thing to building a culture. I mean, it's so hard to do in the NFL with the big contracts, and these are grown men in some situations, but there's a real culture. There's a real team built here. And if you're looking for reasons to feel optimistic, it starts with Dan Campbell and it bleeds to the bottom.
It's just, I understand the worry, the concern from some fans, because if let's just be real. This is foreign to a lot of Lions fans, seeing this type of real culture, and they want to embrace it, but they're also scared of losing this feeling because they've never seen it before. I mean, nobody's ever seen this before with the Lions, so I understand the concern and the worry, but it's just like, hey, just don't worry about the sky falling or waiting on the other shoe to drop. Just live in the moment and let the cars fall where they may, because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, they're the most injured team in the NFL by a lot, and they're not just missing guys. They're missing dudes. I mean, they're missing Aiden Hutchinson, David Montgomery. I mean, you guys know the names for the top 5 linebackers. Aleem McNeil. I've seen a lot of talks about, oh, we're a cursed franchise. Oh, what's up with the training staff and stuff like that. This is a completely remodeled and revamped training staff that everything I've heard about is beloved. Like, these guys trust them. You hear from Taylor Decker, like, man, F those guys for holding me out for 2 games, but I love them and they did the right thing. Football's a violent sport. I don't like to say lucky or unlucky, but injuries are lucky and unlucky, because, like, some of these have happened outside. Some of these have happened in practice. Some of these have happened on special teams, defense, offense, non-contact, contact. It's a brutal game. And unfortunately, I mean, the Hutchinson injury, it's his leg flying into his own teammate's shin. The Dorsey thing, getting caught on the turf and running in football, this stuff happens. It usually doesn't happen at these levels. I understand the questions, but, like, chill on the training staff. This is the NFL. Like,
it doesn't get no mean simpler than that. This is the violent sport. I mean, people collide. Things happen. I mean, it's really no other way to say it but that. But it's just unfortunate when it hits closer to home when it's for fans because it's the team that you're covering.
I get it. Moving on, Joel Maloney's question: has there been any word from Dan Campbell or staff about Emanuel Mosley with the shortage of defensive backs? He's got to be playing, I would think.
Yeah,
I know, right?
This has been the one that has been pretty interesting for me because we see him during the practice viewing window. He's out there. He looks good. We can't see everything from practice, but from the limited that we do see, it looks like he's moving well. You hear from the coaches, he's trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Sunday comes, inactive. And that's been the same way for the past couple of weeks. It seems like they're trying to go ahead and get him ready. I think Aaron Glenn just talked about it a minute ago. If they think he'll look ready, then come time before the game, something freakish happens. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a question mark until he's no longer on the inactive list.
Yeah, it's really hard to answer. He made his debut in the Indy game, thought he was going to play a defensive role the next week, healthy scratch, a setback that's never been really elaborated on. And then he's been inactive for whatever it is, 2 or 3 games in a row. I asked Aaron Glenn today, just like trying, because I knew Joe asked this question. So I was like, all right, let's get an answer. He's practicing, so we'll see. We'll play the best guys. So that's, and then Dave Burkett asked, does he have rust? He hasn't played in 2 years. And it's just kind of like the same answer. He's practicing. We'll see. We'll play the best guys. And then he went into a spiel about Vildor offering inside-outside versatility. So I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I would have, if you're asking me, if he's healthy and able, you've waited 2 years to see what he is, get him on the field.
Absolutely.
Get him out there.
Because whatever's going to happen at this point is going to happen, and right now they need the bodies, especially with Carlton Davis out. So just roll them out there and see what happens.
Yeah, and no questions about Melifonwu, but he had his practice clock open this week. Second time of the season, they're trying to work him back in, and Dan Campbell didn't rule out linebacker or a Jamal Adams type role for Melifonwu. So I wanted to squeeze in one bit of good news there. Yeah. Maybe if he can get back. Dan didn't even rule out this weekend, and I'm just saying, Melifonwu was clutch down the stretch for him last year. Get him, get Mosley in that rotation. Just move those pieces around. I think that's what they need to do is just rotate until something sticks like it did with Melifonwu last year.
Getting a couple of these guys back down the stretch, and if they're able to be productive, that would be really key for them. Because they're not going to be Mac, they're not going to be Carlton, but it's better to have some of those guys coming back now as you're trying to go ahead and go down the stretch as opposed to not having them at all.
Amen. Cameron Jones, not really a question, but now is the time AG becomes a front runner for everyone's head coach job. Yes. Yeah, man, if he pulls another rabbit out of his hat like he has this season at different times, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Aaron Glenn is an elite head coaching candidate. I don't care what happens the rest of the season.
I still think he pulled a rabbit out of his hat, even with them scoring 48 points last time. If you just look at the way that the offense kind of spotted them, they were kind of playing from behind the whole time. But I think that AG just has to be the front runner. He's been playing with a patchwork defense, and I think just the law of averages kind of just caught up with him last week. You're only going to be able. They were playing with house money the entire, pretty much a bulk of this season. So. I think he's going to pretty much. They're able to finish the season out with only 2 losses. I think he's going to be looking at a situation where he can pick which one of these openings he wants.
No, I agree. I really do agree. Just how he adjusts in these coming weeks is going to be paramount to this team's success because there's even more weight on his shoulders, no doubt about it. Oh, Chris Matthews, perfect timing on that one. What defensive adjustments can we expect from Glenn? Are they planning to play more cover 2 or 3 without Davis? Little note, more zone could be possible, but Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell, they are in your face, want to play man coverage, our guy on your guy type of defense. And the Lions play man coverage more than anybody in the NFL. They're number 1 in that in both vibes and actual stats.
And even though he's had an up and down rookie year, that's pretty much where Terrion Arnold shines. So I don't think they shy away from that at this point in the season. I think they're just going to go ahead and just make those adjustments within as far as the players go to see, like you said, to see what sticks. But I don't think they abandon their identity this point in the season because doing that could be a little dangerous.
Yeah, that's changing what you've just taught all these new guys on the fly. And while Chris, this is a great question. I think you will see more zone. Like, I think you just have to.
You have to, yeah.
You really do have to, but like this is still going to be a man coverage dominant team, and it really depends on who's out there. Like, if I think if Mosley's getting time, I think they might play a little zone. If it's Vildor, it might be Vildor. That's right, because Khalil Dorsey's hurt too, so it's going to be Vildor again, probably playing a ton of snaps. And I think Glennon even mentioned playing him some zone today too. You might see some cover 2, you might see some cover 3, but more times than not, you're going to see man coverage in the way they've been playing all year. Aaron Novato from California. I had 0 issues at the time or after the fact with the onside kick, down 2 possessions, can't stop them. What I didn't understand was not taking a timeout prior to the last field goal. They bled the play clock to nothing. If you're going to win the game, which means Buffalo can't get the ball. You know what? This is a good question. The whole thing seemed incredibly Eberflusian. Am I missing something? Or was there any rationale given for that decision? That's one of the main regrets Dan Campbell had when he talked to us, I think Wednesday, was just the lack of urgency, the paying attention to the clock in those moments. Like, there was urgency, but like, even he said it when they got the ball back in offense, like, we got to be quicker. Like, we got to go. So I do think that there were some regrets about the timeouts.
Yeah, it felt like, I hate to say this, it felt like they were moving like they were defeated.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's kind of the vibe I got, because I mean, you know, even when they've been down in some of these games down the stretch, you still kind of feel the energy inside the Ford Field. It was a little bit different. It was like you could cut that tension with a knife.
Yeah.
So
people laughed after that failed onside kick with 10 minutes left.
So I definitely agree with that. They definitely have to figure out that that's just urgency. That can't be a thing again moving forward.
No, and it was. I think he was mainly talking about the offense, not getting to the ball, not rushing. But I think that covers the whole rash of things. Is kind of what are you saving your timeouts for? And that's the Eberflusian. But he owned it. I mean, Dan did what he always does. This is on me. This is on me. This is on me. That was on me. This was on me. That was on me. That is what you want in a head coach.
And one thing is that I've seen about Dan is he doesn't really make the same mistake twice.
True.
I mean, he'll make a new mistake or make a decision that could come back and bite him, but he doesn't make the same mistake.
There's always even if he makes the same mistake twice, there's always a new flavor added to how he tried to do it. So great point there. Brandon Thornton, do the recent round of injuries change Holmes' focus on which position group gets fixed in the coming draft? D-line is first draft, cornerbacks last year. No, man, we discussed this last year. I think it's edge defenders, defensive line depth, more secondary depth, like you said, some linebacker depth after we saw what happened here, and interior offensive line depth, just with Glasgow and Zeitler being veterans and kind of dealing with some injuries throughout the year.
Oh yeah, definitely think they go. I definitely think they add to that into the trenches in the first round. And again, in that second round, I think that we can see a position where they try to move up and get 2 second-round picks, because I think they also need to go ahead and add to that linebacker room. So, that's where I'm at. Cornerbacks. Yeah. I'm not really there, because I mean you got Arnold. You could possibly bring back Davis. Rakestraw, you still drafted him pretty high, and there's also the free agent market. So I think they're pretty good at corner, but you know that the trenches and that front seven got to add some depth.
No, I think edge rushers at the top of the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the Marcus Davenport experiment did not work. You know, the injury troubles it's a bummer. They're a good player, good dude from what I've seen too, but just they need edge defenders, probably another linebacker. John Bloomfield, I don't know if this is a mailbag question, but what do you guys see of offensive line drill work at practice? Talking about the running game being a little down in recent weeks. We get to see everything in training camp. Once the season starts, we get like 8 to 15 minutes of practice time. It's stretching. It's individual drills. It's just for us to take attendance. We see nothing.
Right.
We see nothing. No. We see those guys throwing passes and stuff. Yeah. So my question is, how much can they really fix it at this point with guys at that level? I think Zeitler's been pretty damn good. Yeah. I think Graham's been dealing with some nicks and bruises here that have slowed him down in recent weeks, but you're not ever going to find me worrying about this offensive line, even when it's down a little bit. Decker's back now. I think they're getting their feet back under them. It's that time of year. Yes, these guys are older. They've been through a lot this season, but like I have a lot of faith in Hank Fraley and everything about that offensive line.
I do too. And again, this is I'm going to be a broken record. This is why I said they got to get that number 1 seed so those guys can get that. That I believe that week off would do wonders for them because I mean they had a really early bye week.
Doesn't feel like it ever happened.
Yeah, and they have to get that number 1 seed. I believe again this because we're talking about the attrition of the offensive line. I believe getting that is paramount for those guys to just kind of get a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
And be able to play those last stretch of games.
All right, we're getting to the end of the rope here. Chris, any rumors about picking up a running back? Zonovan Knight? I don't know about rumors or anything. I know they have some faith in Craig Reynolds to see it step up in the ladder. Sione Vaki's been working all year. Jamar Jefferson has like 4 years on this practice squad. Scotty Montgomery said he's basically been in a championship round of a boxing fight for 3 years, and he's still standing. So, yeah, they'll add some depth. And a Zonovan Knight type name would probably be the type of depth they bring because I think familiarity does kind of reign supreme this time of year.
That would be a great pickup. But one thing we also know is they are going to see what they have in that next game before they go ahead and make a move. That has just pretty much been how they operated. They waited a couple of games to see, even though we did find out they reached out about Zadarius Smith immediately, they still waited a couple of games to see how they looked on that defensive line without adding an edge rusher. So I think they're gonna at least take about a game, maybe 2, to see how they look with Vaki, Reynolds. Maybe Jefferson gets moved up, which is kind of the feeling I'm getting is gonna happen. But if those guys are able to produce, I don't see them manning as out of it. But if they don't give them what they want, again, he knows the offense, he knows the expectations here, and I'm pretty sure he's healthy at this point.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It'll be a solid pickup.
Yeah, and Jamar's the only running back on the practice squad, so I would expect a practice squad addition, especially if Jamar gets the bump up. But they're also waiting on Montgomery.
Yeah,
like they're trying.
And that's going to be the real big thing, seeing where Montgomery's going to be at and how soon they get the word back from that additional opinion.
I'll knock this one out real quick. Warren Fulton wants to know why Brad Holmes can't call to Aaron Donald and say, I'll give you $1 million per game. Donald retired with time left on his deal, so he would have to unretire, and the Rams would control his rights. So love the thought.
And with the way the Rams are right now, they would not give him up to nobody.
No, and I think he'd come back for them. David Qualls with a good one. We'll see if we have time for the last one. But David Qualls, after seeing that, Isaiah Thomas has been released. Which of the midseason signings do you think has been the best for the Lions so far? He lists Pat O'Connor, Zeke Turner, Jamal Adams, Quan Alexander, Jonah Williams, and David Long. Do you see any possibility sticking beyond this season? What do you think about that group?
Ooh, I'm leaning somewhere between the Zeke Turner and David Long. I think those guys have just been really good additions to that group. And again, with all these injuries, you need quality depth moving forward. So I think I could see. I don't know which one of those I could see sticking long term though. Maybe I might lean towards Turner just a little bit.
Yeah.
I could probably see him coming back. I think he's played well enough just to earn a spot and get another shot moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's Turner and O'Connor as the two that might stick around because what they do defensively and also on special teams, and they also just seem like they've always been here. Like they're those two guys that fit in very well with the locker room and the coaching staff.
It does feel like, I will say this, it does feel like O'Connor's been here for a minute.
I know the Lions drafted him like 12 years ago, but it felt like he's always been here. No, they like O'Connor. They like what he's done on the line. They like what he brings to special teams. And Zeke Turner is just one of those guys where it's kind of been like, So yeah, the other four, who knows? Alexander, they know him well. Who knows what he's looking for at this stage of his career? Same for Adams. Same for Williams. And same for Long, too. I mean, he's 2 years removed from getting a $15 million deal from the Dolphins. So, I mean, these guys, we'll see on those. But O'Connor and Turner are the two I'm like, that's a special teams player with good defensive depth. That's that one. You know what? I'll give Mario. Mario came through with grades for us since I do my Lions grades every week. Great job on this, Mario. He's given us a grade on the questions he asked us. Hutchinson will receive Defensive Player of the Year votes. You both said yes. He gave us an He said, I would say incomplete, but I might give you an A. Hey, NFL Network did a polling of GMs yesterday, and Hutchinson still got a Defensive Player of the Year vote. So A, I'll give myself an A for that one. Amon-Ra St. Brown will lead the league in catches. You said yes. Gives us an A- on that one. David Montgomery leads the Lions in touches. You said no. B+ because I think Gibbs will get first. More than one Lions defensive player will make the Pro Bowl. You said yes. Currently a B. Branch and Kirby are there. Who knows how it finishes? Lions top 16 on defense. We said yes. Gives us an A on that. Lions are a 1 or 2 seed. He said yes, and Mario gives us a B+ on that one. So we did pretty good. Yeah. I feel pretty good about that. I was a little worried about that question going in. A great job as always from Mario. Great job from Kory as always on the podcast. The 12-2 Lions on the road this weekend. You'll be with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotta bundle. Matter of fact, I gotta go pack up and bundle up because it's gonna be a little chilly out there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We'll both be in Chicago this weekend. Looking forward to that one. The Lions have a chance to be 13-2. Most wins in a single season in franchise history is on the line, and also a 5-0 start in the NFC North. Winning this game is massive to everything they want to do. Winning out is massive to everything what to do, but this being 5-0 in the division going into that Week 18 game, man, that's big time.
Oh yeah, and I think they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna. I have them winning this game by about 10.
I want you guys to know, I feel very confident this weekend. I think they slap them around. I think the offense comes out and says, screw you, we got this. We don't care what's on the other side of that ball. I'm taking the Lions 35-10. I think this is a statement win. I think this is the type of game that Dan Campbell was born to coach in. I really do. I'm not trying to give you guys lip service. I think the Lions absolutely smack this team around this weekend.
That's not too far away from what I got. I have 31-14.
Love it. Love it. Hopefully that cheers you guys up. We'll be back from Soldier Field. We're going to have to do this from a broom closet now in their press box. We'll be making the drive down there Saturday morning. Subtext where you can submit these questions. He's Kory Woods. I'm Ben Raven. We are the Dungeon of Doom.